Hello, Attorney Alexander Benekov here from the Benekov Law Firm. I wanted to address two issues of DUIs in Arizona, two questions that I get the most from clients that I wanted to take a second to answer. One is, do I need a lawyer? I've been charged with a DUI, but lawyers are expensive. I don't know if I need one. I know Arizona has tough mandatory minimums, so why don't I just go into court and plead guilty on my own? I understand that thinking. DUI lawyers are expensive. You're looking at thousands of dollars, which is a lot of money. And it is true that Arizona does have very tough minimums, some of the toughest DUI laws in the country, in fact, so that is true. But there are a couple really good reasons why you should hire a DUI lawyer if at all you're able to. The first thing is the lawyer will see things that you miss. What that means is that the lawyer is a trained professional, especially a lawyer that focuses on DUIs and does a lot of DUIs. An analogy I like to make is you wouldn't try doing your own surgery. Nobody is diagnosed with some kind of tumor and they say, well, to save money, I'm just going to do the surgery myself. Because we understand that you need a surgeon, that you can't just cut yourself open and hope for the best to save some money. No, you're going to go to a hospital, you're going to see a surgeon. Well, DUI lawyers are the same in a lot of ways. There's going to be a lot of expertise required to look into the case. One example is a lawyer may see potential legal issues in your stop or how your blood was processed that you may not. As an example, one of the major cities in greater Phoenix area in Maricopa County last year had a very serious blood testing machine issue. And lawyers were able to find that issue and address it, and that had a large impact on a lot of people's DUI cases. Now, if you would have just looked at the paperwork from the lab on your own without having the expertise of a DUI lawyer, there's no way you would have seen that issue. So that's just one example of something that a DUI lawyer is going to see that you won't. Another advantage of having a lawyer is that a lawyer is going to be better able to negotiate a better deal for you. Again, as I mentioned, Arizona does have very strict DUI laws, but prosecutors will still sometimes have some amount of discretion in cases. For example, if you're close to some kind of cutoff. Whereas if you go in on your own, the prosecutor is going to say, look, this is your blood level, this is the reading, this is what we want. A prosecutor may be able to work out something better. Not always, but you may be able to get a better outcome than you would on your own. The second major question I get all the time is, how do I find the right DUI lawyer? There's obviously a lot of them, and you don't just want to find one out of what people used to use phone books. Now you don't just want to Google, Phoenix DUI lawyer, because there's a lot of lawyers, and honestly, not all of them are qualified or competent. In the greater Phoenix area, there's probably 200 or 300 lawyers that claim to be good at DUIs that want you to hire them for their DUI. In reality, a lot of them don't really know what they're doing. I'm in court all the time and I talk to some of these lawyers, and a lot of them honestly have no idea what they're doing and should not be allowed to handle DUI cases. But somehow they get clients. Some of them advertise a lot. Excuse me. I don't know, but a lot of them are in court, and prosecutors can tell that they don't know what they're doing. Judges can tell they know what they're doing, and ultimately they don't get the best outcome possible for their clients. So, again, what can you do to find the right lawyer for you? Again, making a doctor analogy, when, say, you need a knee surgery and you go to one doctor and that doctor says, well, I'm a general practitioner, I do a little bit of everything, but, let's take a look at your knee. You're not going to have the highest degree of confidence in that doctor, as opposed to a different doctor that you go to and they say, look, all I do is work on knees, 95% of my practice is devoted to working on knees. That's the doctor you're going to want for your knee procedure. So with lawyers, it's kind of the same thing. When you're looking for a lawyer, you want somebody that focuses heavily on DUI law and practicing DUI cases in Arizona. So, when you talk to a lawyer, that's one of the questions you should ask them is how much of your practice is devoted to DUI cases? And then if they tell you, well, I do some construction law, some real estate law, some criminal stuff, and I dabble in DUIs, that should be a major red flag for you because, again, for fairly obvious reasons, you want a lawyer that focuses in the type of law that you need them for. If you need a divorce, you want somebody that does a lot of divorce cases. Same thing with DUIs. You should also meet with the lawyer in person if you can, and that's important because that way you'll be able to get a good read on them. Do you get along with them? Do you like them? And that's important because you're going to be working with them. So, just because you've heard good things about them, but you meet with them and you don't like them, they're abrasive or unfriendly or whatever, that's important. So again, try to meet with them to see if it's somebody that you want to work with. There's also a number of questions that I would recommend asking of any DUI lawyer that you're thinking about hiring. The first question I would start with is ask them, how many DUIs do you handle annually, and approximately how many DUIs have you handled? And ask how many DUIs have you done in the past 3 months, 6 months? And that's important because some lawyers maybe did a lot of DUIs 10 years ago but haven't done one since. They've been doing some other kind of law or just their practice hasn't been doing well. That's important because DUI laws are constantly changing in Arizona, and you want a lawyer that does a lot of DUI cases and has done them recently. For example, I'm constantly doing DUIs, so I have to stay up to date on the current DUI law, and I think that's an advantage for my clients. Also ask what percentage of their practice is devoted to DUI law. Again, a lawyer may say, well, I've done some DUIs recently, but are you mostly doing, is 80% of your practice real estate law and maybe 1% is DUI law? That's important for you to know. Also, you want to know what professional organizations does the lawyer belong to. There's a number of organizations that are important for anybody that's actually serious about practicing DUI law and being good at it that they should belong to. For example, there's the National College of DUI practice lawyers. I can't remember the exact name. I think they just recently changed it, but I'm a member of it, and that's important because they're up to date on all the latest changes, all the latest tactics, all the latest strategies. Also along those lines, you want to ask that lawyer what kind of conferences they go to, because that's important because that's where you learn the latest strategies, techniques, methods, find the best experts to work with. So those are all questions that you want to ask. You also want to ask the lawyer how often are they in the court where you've been charged. Now that's important because every court has its own dynamics, has its own procedure, has its own little variations. For example, one court may have home detention while another one may not. Or two courts may have home detention, but they may implement it in different ways. So you want to ask your lawyer or your potential lawyer, hey, I've been charged in Scottsdale or Mesa or Tempe or wherever. How many cases do you do in that court? And that's important because you want them to know the judges there, you want them to know the prosecutors there, because they'll be able to better work with those people. Another question you want to ask yourself when looking for a lawyer is, does their price sound reasonable? A lot of the time you're not going to know what's reasonable. So I usually recommend that people talk to a couple different lawyers to get an idea and kind of figure out an average. And that way you'll kind of know, well, this lawyer's charging this much, that lawyer's charging that much. Also with pricing, keep in mind, you usually get what you pay for. If you find a DUI lawyer that's charging you $200, you're probably going to get $200 worth of quality representation. And my prices aren't cheap, but I think they're reasonable. I also offer payment plans if they're needed, and I take credit cards, so hopefully that helps potential clients. Another question that's important to ask the lawyer is if they're going to be personally handling your case. Now this is important because a lot of lawyers will meet with you initially to take your money, but then when you go to court or go to trial, it's an associate of theirs that's actually handling the case. And then you show up to court and you say, hey, I hired so-and-so, and the associate says, well, they're busy, I'm here for them. And you say, well, I didn't hire you, I hired your boss. With my practice, I'm a solo practitioner, and that's by design. That way I'm able to personally handle all my clients' matters, all their court appearances, all their trials, all their communications. So that way when you hire me, you know that I'll be there in court and I'll actually be handling your case. And I think that's important. The last thing to watch out for when hiring a DUI lawyer is, are they promising you anything? This should be a huge red flag. It's not only a violation of Arizona rules of professional conduct to guarantee an outcome in a criminal matter, it's also incredibly professional, and that lawyer is not being honest with you. Criminal cases are incredibly complex, and there's a lot of variables and a lot of moving parts, and it's simply not possible to guarantee an outcome. So any lawyer that says, hire me, pay me this much, and I'll make your case go away, and I guarantee it, you should immediately at that point stand up and walk out of their office because that lawyer is not being honest with you. So hopefully you've enjoyed this a little bit of information about some issues and questions that come up with DUI lawyers in Arizona. If you have any questions, please let me know. My office number is 602-253-6592. You can also get more information about me and my practice on my website, benicovlaw.com, and hopefully this has been informative. Thank you.